Contractors across the country are building retaining walls wrong. So today I'm going to show you some of the most common mistakes I see being made, like retaining wall failures that are part of entire landslides. Educating yourself is the first step to avoid simple, easy mistakes. Like this, you can't put vertical joints in walls. It creates weak points. This retaining wall is only 3 years old and it's already started to separate. So whether you're a contractor or you're a homeowner, don't let anybody do these things on your property. That looks right. So if you're wondering what I'm doing, some of these battery-powered tools claim to be weather resistant. In an upcoming video, we're going to be putting that theory to the ultimate test. And now would be a good time to subscribe. Just reach up, hit that button, you can do it. Is less than 3 years old, and what you see is not uncommon. Unfortunate truth is a lot of landscaping companies and concrete companies build a terraced retaining wall. This wall should have been engineered, built as one unit. So the reason most people will design a terraced retaining wall is because they're trying to cheat the system. They think by separating the retaining walls, they don't have to engineer them, but nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, when you terrace a retaining wall, you put more of a surcharge on the lower wall from the upper wall. It's simpler and easier to build a single retaining wall, but you gotta get it engineered, you gotta put geogrid in it, and you gotta get city approval. Most contractors try to avoid those things. Designing the retaining wall right out of the get-go is an important factor, but also noticing the types of soil you're using. We're doing a soil correction. This stuff gets hauled away. The problem is it's over optimum moisture. It's too wet.
That's what she said.
Getting the right backfill is critical to the long-term success of your retaining wall, but even more critical is getting the right amount of drainage aggregate. Now the industry standard is to put 12 inches behind the retaining wall, but I'm going to tell you to deepen that to 18, even more inches. It's just cheap insurance that's going to ensure you long-term success. This is a new one. Tim and I have never usually seen the drain tile installed at the top of the retaining wall without any drainage aggregate.
Exactly.
We found one row of geogrid placed in this wall. Right where we found the geogrid was the only place on this site the wall still seemed to be intact. That's how important it is to get the geogrid right. When you're designing a retaining wall, you have to take into consideration the kind of soil that you're going to be working with and the load directly behind and above the retaining wall. So some of the basic changes you're going to see us make today on this retaining wall is we're going to build one wall. We're not going to build a terraced wall. We're also going to engineer this wall and fortify it with geogrid. We're going to accommodate for the load that the driveway places on it. The driveway places a surcharge onto the retaining wall, so we install extra geogrid to compensate for that. It's time to go to West Virginia where we bust myth number 2. One of the myths is when you see a retaining wall collapse, you don't see the drainage aggregate. The drainage aggregate actually is one of the first things that usually gets washed away. If the drainage aggregate is going to be on this site, it should be in this virgin soil. So when I come into a site like this, I look for the drainage aggregate at the bottom of the retaining wall, in the storm sewer system, or in the virgin soil behind the retaining wall. If we're going to find it, this is where we're going to find it. And we got nothing. And that's the problem. Most companies are either going to use the wrong drainage aggregate, or worse yet, none at all. Is this the footing material they use?
Yep.
This is the footing.
It is.
We've got 1.5 inches, maybe down to 1 inch in places. Some companies prefer to pour a footing, but if they do, it should be at least 4 inches thick. I've found the best footing material is 3/4 inch rock laid in at least 6 inches thick. I think you're going to get the sense that this next retaining wall gets me a little irked. Anchor wall again, another anchor mess. The sign of a cheap landscaper is use an anchor block. Anchor is the go-to block for a lot of contractors because it's fast. There's no pins to connect. It has a simple lip system that you slide in place, you're done. It's also light. The blocks are hollow from the bottom side, and they're a cheaper block. Costs less to buy them initially. But these are also all of the same reasons why you're never gonna find one of these blocks on one of my job sites. Ugh, I hate this. This just gets me so mad. Homeowners don't know how walls are supposed to be built. When they hire a contractor, they just assume that they're hiring a professional. If a contractor is using cheap block, he may be using cheap construction methods as well. Now let's see, $2 for baloney. I ain't paying that. Look at 0 drainage aggregate impacted with dirt. I'm surprised they didn't use filter fabric behind the face of the wall, because landscapers like to do that too.
I've heard of that too, man.
Why are you laughing?
Because it just defeats the purpose of a free draining wall.
You've only installed 250,000 square feet of retaining wall?
Yeah.
And had how many fail?
0.
0. Some companies still think you should put fabric behind the face of a retaining wall, but nothing could be further from the truth. And I want you to see what's behind it. You'll see fabric. You can see it protruding through here, and it's tapering down behind the retaining wall. That fabric, it gets basically plugged up. That can't handle any more silt or sediment. The water comes down, it can't weep through the face of this wall. This wall is meant to have water come evenly through it. It can't do it. This wall is bellying, bowing out, and it's in a state of failure because they put filter fabric behind the wall. If this video has helped you guys out, let me know in the comments down below or hit the like button. Make sure you stay tuned to see how this test turns out.